Welcome back, folks. This is Yankees Unloaded. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. As always, he is Gary Sheffield Jr. And today we are talking about a kind of a downer game. 2-0 Baltimore Orioles won. And after scoring 30 runs, the Yankees could only muster the 0 in the 30. Tough day, Gary. I mean, they left guys on base. I think they left 10 on base. They went 0 for 8 in runners in scoring position. The thing that bothers me the most, and I said this, off air, and I stand by this, is that it was that type of day where the Orioles get a run off a routine ground ball. And I thought there was like 8 different times. Judge flew out to the warning track twice. Hell, we even got the teaser at the end that would have tied the game. With Cabrera, who, by the way, if I'm going to take anything away from this game, I'll say this. Cabrera, with that at bat in that moment, I was impressed. I mean, certain ballparks, that's a home run. And the way he battled and got that to a 3-2 count, I mean, this is an entirely new pitcher who comes in, and, I mean, the man is ready to go. He was juiced, Colombe or whatever. I was really impressed and encouraged by his approach. I know now he's hitting 258 and people are going to sour on him. He went 0 for 4 today. But you had brought up, Gary, there were only 3 strikeouts on the day. So that's another thing to kind of take away from this game. It's like, okay, if you're taking some good things, that is one of the good things. You're not seeing 10, 12, something strikeouts. This is just one of those games where, honestly, the Orioles didn't play that much better. And to be honest with you, I don't even know if they did play better, because the reality is the Yankees out-hit them. And aside from that one home run earlier in the game and an error that they should have been out of the inning, the Orioles don't score.
Yeah, and if you really think about it, if we walk more than we strike out, which we did yesterday, today we walked and struck out the same amount of times, 3 each, and we had more hits than strikeouts. In my opinion, you would expect that was a positive performance. And unfortunately, this game was just a struggle fest for everybody. It was a poor game. It was not good. To be honest with you, Grayson Rodriguez, it seemed like he was commanding that changeup. I think it was like a split change. I know Pitching Ninja said it was not a split changeup. He kind of explained it there a little bit. But whatever that little splitter changeup thing is, it's a very good pitch. It's something that he goes to. It's something he can command. And overall, that breaking ball, his slider, curveball, I think it's a curveball actually, really, he didn't really have too much confidence with it the whole game. So when you see a pitcher go to that length with 2 pitches, like obviously it's a bit disappointing, but like you said before, we were making some pretty hard contact and that just didn't work out. We flew out to the track a few times, and like obviously that's disappointing. I said to you before we went live, I said Volpe's hitting 270. The hell happened?
I know.
What happened? And I'll say this. When we said that Anthony Volpe, and we were trying to make predictions about how he would hit in the season, because I don't want this to be a bitter fest about Volpe, because I think we both agree that he's the future of leadoff for the New York Yankees. And when we made predictions about what he would do, and we talked about where can we expect his batting average to go, and when we made predictions, people had guesses from 250 to 275. Hell, I even heard 310, right? So obviously this is all-star level play. But when you're talking about a player, and if Volpe if he has some shortcomings and then he gets off the mat again and he ends up, say, at 270, he's not walking a ton to justify hitting leadoff at hitting 270. Okay. So it is very important for Volpe to have more consistency at the plate. And I'm just surprised by the number. I was not expecting that. I know he had a big night yesterday. So yeah, I was not expecting this. I just really wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fair to question whether or not, like, did the leadoff spot get to his head? I mean, there's no way for us to know.
Nope.
And that's the thing. I don't like just the, even if I disagree with your point, And, because there were a lot of people immediately, and some of the bigger names that cover the Yankees were immediately like, no, like, don't fix, you can't fix what's, not broken or whatever. And
Right.
it's like, I don't like looking at it like that because I think you can always upgrade. I do believe that. But to be fair to them, we don't know what Volpe's thinking. All we know is that it wasn't immediately when he became the leadoff hitter because he was still having success, which I think a lot of people failed to realize is that it took a little bit. Like he was having success,
Yep.
and then you had the end of that Tigers series, or not Tigers, Cleveland Guardians series, and then you go to Toronto and he has the worst like series you could ever imagine.
He was
And
atrocious over there.
it didn't really help. Like, I think after that, he started reverting back to the usual. And I don't necessarily think that's just leadoff. I think, honestly, that series still kind of haunts him. So there's no easy way to really tell. I don't think you can tell. Only Volpe can tell you whether or not it's bothering him. And maybe he doesn't even know,
Well,
That's one of those
remember, I
things.
was saying that Volpe hasn't necessarily made an adjustment on the beginning of the season. So at the beginning of the year, people were making this prediction that, okay, well, Volpe is hitting the ball hard. He's putting the ball in play all the time. He's obviously leading the league in hitting, but people see him as a completely different hitter than as they do today, which I kind of bite back on because I saw like from now to then, it seems like the only difference is that Volpe was seeing a ton of pitches in the zone. And so when you do put him at leadoff, you are giving him more responsibility. It's not the same, right? You're not pitched the same way. You may not be pitched like the difference may not be like insurmountable. It's something ridiculous, but we're talking about that there are differences. The way that you see Juan Soto pitched and Aaron Judge pitched, you put guys in the 3 and 4 spot, you see how many more breaking balls they see. You see 2-2 breaking balls. You see 3-1 breaking balls. They put you, it is a tough at bat at the top of the lineup. That's essentially what I'm trying to tell you guys. And it seems like Anthony Volpe at no part of the season, including the beginning, was he really putting forward an at bat where he's saying that I want to just get on base. And it seems like he's trying to hit his way on base. I'm not saying that's a horrible thing. I know it's a good to be aggressive, but he's a bit too aggressive. And that's just my opinion on it right now. I would like to see more patience. And I think that if he lets the game come to him, he can learn from Juan Soto. I've talked about this a few times now, that you don't always have to swing the bat. To a game like today, him getting on base, maybe one more time can give us an opportunity to get something started. I'm not putting the whole game on him. I just want to make sure that we're aware that I'm cool with these struggles because he's got to learn at some point. Last year was a huge learning curve for him. We left him out on the field the whole year, won Gold Glove, but ultimately we decided that his swing was more uppercut. I feel like his swing is fine. I wouldn't call him reverting. I just think that he has something to learn right now, and I believe he'll do it.
Yeah, I think it's a slump. I mean, I think the Yankees were going through something. I think, that series against the Brewers shouldn't be just eliminated based on this game. I mean, let's be honest here. The Orioles are one of the best teams in baseball. They currently have a better win percentage than the Yankees. Now, obviously the Yankees have more wins, but they have one more loss than the Orioles, and the Orioles haven't played as many games. So that's kind of where I stand, is that the Orioles, this is kind of a battle of the two best teams in the AL right now. And, just because they lost to the Orioles doesn't really mean like, oh, wow, like this is pathetic and all that. Like, I was expecting to split this series, to be honest with you. It's a 4-game set. I mean, I think both teams win at least 2 games each. So, my thinking is not really, oh, wow, you didn't get it done, this is, inexcusable. My thinking is more so, you got to take the good with the bad. And I think if you can celebrate the 30 runs that they scored, and then you can turn around and say, oh, this team's pathetic, after they don't score 30 runs in 2 games and, they get shut out again. It's like, I think the thing about the shutouts are it's very simple, right? When you have all these guys that are essentially trying to, because you're down 2-0, you get away from your approach when you have 0 on the board. And so
That is true.
I think it's really all it is just you have a lineup filled with guys that are equipped to hit home runs and change the game on one swing. So I think it's human nature. Like, hey, it's 1-0, and I'm the guy that can, put that one up on the board and tie the game. I'm going to try to do that. And I thought we saw that. Volpe did that. Soto had a little bit more of an uppercut swing in some of his at bats today. Judge, Rizzo, Stanton. I mean, even Wells. So I think that's just that. It's not a surprise to me, but I want to take one thing away from this game that I really liked is that Gleyber Torres hit 2 for 4. And once again, he is finding his way back. Keep in mind, remember what I said. I said when May hits, he is going to be absolutely raking, and he's already in the midst of getting to that. Isn't that funny? We went over his splits, and May he hits like 290, and
Yeah.
now we talked about that. Only get it on this show. We talked about that, and now it's like he's having this slow, like ramp up period before he hits May, and he's just gonna like have a blistering May. And I feel like
And,
that's what's gonna happen.
and what's nice about it is it seems like the Yankees are committed to Anthony Volpe at the top of the lineup, which kind of goes to show that if Gleyber Torres brings that traditional May that we're used to seeing from him, that we're lengthening out this lineup. So let me say this, because I think that this is my biggest takeaway on today is that there's not always something to learn from a loss. Like you don't always have to say we have a big reaction to it. Sometimes it's just baseball. You hit some balls, they just don't fall your way. But there's a reason that the season is as long as it is that you don't just lose a game to Baltimore and then just go lay down. Because if that was the case, then Houston should have ended their series after they should have just ended the whole season after they were swept by us.
People are still saying they should do that.
Right. And people are idiots.
Yeah.
Right. So
No, I agree.
that's essentially what we're saying, because remember, we scored 30 runs. You brought it up earlier, 30 runs in 2 games. We come into today and we say, okay, we have momentum offensively. It's got to help us in this series. We show up game 1, we lay an egg. So what? Yesterday, perfect example, the Los Angeles Dodgers went and played the 14-15 Toronto 4th place Blue Jays. And they lost 3-1. Just went down without a whimper. Ohtani was hitless, right? All these guys, no one did a lick. Mookie Betts had a flare single in the game. There was nothing to write about. And Toronto, frankly, I watched the game, didn't play very well. There was nothing to get excited about. It was essentially a stinker of a performance. And long behold, the Dodgers are sitting there thinking, well, we're 18-12. And for the most part, our offense shows up. So I say all that to say this. All that matters to me, just me, Jake might have a completely different opinion on it, is what this offense is over the grand scheme. Who are they over the course of the season? Because if you watch every game, which Yankees fans more than any other fan base in the world will watch every game. There's people who will tell you, I'm a diehard Rams fan. I'm a diehard Patriots fan. Yeah, I'm a diehard Red Sox fan. They watch 30 games a year. Not us. Not us. There's people in this chat right now who have watched every episode of a podcast about our baseball games. We break down everything. We break down who's hitting 7th, who's hitting 8th, why. Why are the young players in AA? Where do they project? Our fans do this, not really anybody else's. So when I say all that to say this, when you're talking about baseball and we watch all these games and do podcasts about every game, there are going to be stinker performances, and not necessarily for any reason other than it being baseball. So I am not freaking out about this performance. Like you just said, you're expecting a split. I'm expecting somewhere along those lines. If we walk out of here with a split, let the chips fall where they may. I like where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, like we had mentioned during the live stream, they're going to play 13 times this year. And maybe more, with the postseason. But They have 13 guaranteed against the Orioles, and this is one of 13. You can obviously right this wrong, but at the same time, I want to talk about the fact that, let's not forget the Yankees have wins this year in which they literally didn't deserve to win. Like they won based on errors, right? So, I mean, that's kind of sometimes really at the end of the day, baseball is also a test. So you can hit like crap all day, but it's still up to the other team. Like if you're popping out, the other team still has to catch it. And 98% of the time, it feels like they do. But we've seen games in which errors have led to wins. And so, that Volpe grounder today, like, if this was a, 1-run game, well, it was a 1-run game, but if this was like a Yankee lead and that just blew the lead, like, there you go.
Because you can
So
steal games. We did it in Toronto. That
you can
finale
absolutely
in
steal
Toronto,
games.
we stole that game. And you never know if maybe a mistake somewhere there in between, to your point, that it just takes that out of the question. It removes that opportunity. And maybe that error did cost us. But again, I mean, we'll just never know.
Yeah, and not all wins and losses are the same. I mean, obviously
Right.
not. Again, I was complaining about the fact that they got a run off a routine ground ball and Judge is flying out to the track every at bat. One thing I really want to say though about baseball, because I mean, I watch every sport. I mean, some I'm getting tired of, like the NBA, but I feel like baseball is the one where, game in and game out, anyone can win. I mean, the margin for error is not as slim as, say, football. I don't think it's as slim as, say, basketball. I mean, if you get down early on to, say, the Nuggets and they can just continue to hit the threes and everything. And in football, if you get down early to Patrick Mahomes, how are you winning? You're not.
Football is
Hockey.
probably the best. Let's be honest. Football is probably the one sport where the better team wins more times than not.
But they're just like how kind of, because I mean, there's no turnovers in baseball. So, that's the intriguing thing about it, is that you can't just like someone catches the ball. It's like, all right, we're batting now. It's like, well, there's not 3 outs. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But like with football, I mean, there's fumbling and interceptions and things like that, which makes it interesting. But I feel like the gap between the worst team and the best team is not anywhere near as big as it is in other sports. Like, think about it. The NBA, for the most part, 5 guys on a floor at once. I mean, teams don't even run like a full rotation anymore. So, you have a team that just dog walks, like, say, the Pistons, right? It's like, you don't think, like, maybe one night the Pistons will win, but like a good example, like the Lakers, they lost, 11 straight to the Nuggets? I mean, 11
Yeah.
straight.
That's not even
So,
competitive. It's
yes.
ridiculous.
So like baseball, like we see bad teams win all the time. And, our favorite, the stereotypical, oh, I've never heard of this guy before. I'm sure he's going to be Nolan Ryan against the Yankees tonight.
Mhm.
Sandy
Well,
Koufax.
essentially, the whole premise of that is that guy's freaking good.
Yeah. Well, that's the
Like
thing.
really the question, because when
Yeah.
you look at the game tonight, like for example, Milwaukee went and got shut out tonight. I don't know if anyone knew that, but they played Tampa today, and they literally just show up. And I'll literally give you guys a perfect example. And we're talking about Tampa Bay had Pepiot. Who the hell is that?
Oh, I've heard of him before.
Okay,
But your
I've never heard
reaction
of this
was
guy.
hilarious, though. Who
Perfect
the hell
example.
is that?
This is a very good pro. Has great numbers. I don't even know who this guy is. No idea. Ryan Pepiot. It's probably pronounced a different way.
Oh,
I
it's
don't know who
Pepio, I
this is.
think. I know who you're
Pepio.
talking about, yeah.
Let's be clear. He's very good at baseball. And
They all
this
are.
is not a household name. I don't know him. Okay. So the fact that this guy can show up to the yard, just completely shut down Milwaukee, who we just saw. We saw a few guys who they had that were hot, and it just doesn't matter. He just goes and shuts them down. So, I mean, Jake's point literally is you have to show up and execute that day. It doesn't matter how good you are on paper. Yes, talent matters, especially over a long sample size. But when you're talking about today, yeah, we can just show up tomorrow and get shut out again. You have to show up and be ready to play. So hopefully we are. I got a little bit ahead of myself earlier today talking about the matchup that we've got tomorrow with
Yeah.
Nestor Cortez. I actually really like that matchup. I do. So
Kramer
I'm
gives
looking
up the
forward.
long ball.
Yes, he does. And
I mean,
so I'm
Cortez
hoping
has
that,
too, but
yeah, yes, he does. Yeah, let's at least get that out the way. Nestor
yeah,
can let him leave the yard with the best of them.
yeah. I mean, Dean Kramer is a guy that the Yankees typically beat up on. So, they have Corbin Burns the day after that. Okay, I'll be moving. But that, oh, and I wanted to make a point to that. So I don't know if you caught it in the broadcast. I thought it was funny. Maybe it's just me. Gunnar Henderson became the youngest player to hit 10 home runs before May 1st. And I was like, why is this a stat? It just sounds
Hold
so
on. How old is he?
ridiculous. I actually don't know. I'll check
Is
that
he
out.
probably 22?
I think.
He's
22.
Older. He's 22. Okay.
I mean, it's
funny
cool,
'cause
but
when
like it's
Yankees,
just so random.
it is random. But what's funny is when the Yankees call up a guy who's 22, everyone acts like he's like a teenager, like he's in
I know.
Spider-Man. Dude, the dude's a grown man.
I know. I mean, it that is funny actually.
They treat Volpe like he's 15, like he just got his permit. The kid, I'm like,
so
the
true.
kid, he's older than half of Yankees Twitter. What do you mean
know.
the kid?
A bunch of 13-year-olds.
It's ridiculous.
A high
You don't
school
like all
hallway.
the 13-year-olds on Yankees Twitter?
Yeah. High school hallway.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's funny. I thought it was funny because it's like, oh, Gunnar Henderson became the quickest, or the youngest guy to have 10 home runs before Jake moved out. Like, it's like, all right. It's just like this is what we talk about, the crazy stats. The whole, LeBron James is the first player to, score a basket when the night was full moon and a wolf was howling. And dude, sometimes those splits are just hilarious.
Well, it's understandable because they have their heart on right now about Baltimore, and I get it because you have to
Media?
remember
Yeah, they do.
Baltimore is a much more likable team than us because in general
We're the
they're
evil empire. I know.
it's the we built it the right way and all that stuff, which is kind of funny that people say that these different teams, Houston's built the right way and Baltimore's built the right way. And I didn't realize that losing a bunch of games multiple seasons in a row and then drafting number 1 overall was the best way to build a franchise. So,
well, it's funny because, it's the whole build them the right way. But when the Yankees had their, Buck Showalter built team, people just looked at that team and they're like, oh, they're the Yankees, so it doesn't matter. It's like, no, it does matter. And I mean, this team right now, Torres obviously isn't homegrown. They got him via trade, for Chapman. But Cabrera homegrown, Wells homegrown, Judge homegrown, Volpe homegrown. I mean, you're talking about 4 guys in the lineup tonight out of 9 that were homegrown. Clark Schmidt, homegrown player, he started today. I feel like I understand the Yankees have a crazy payroll and all that, but I think we really underestimate just how much of a homegrown roster this became over the course of time. I mean, you got Volpe, you got Judge, you got Cabrera, you have Wells, then you look at, the pitchers and it's like Heal, I understand, and they didn't initially sign him or whatever, but they developed him. Okay, as far as I'm concerned,
player retention will do that. Let's be honest. If Verdugo, you were just asked this, Jake, in the chat. Someone on our live just said, "Hey, do we bring back Verdugo? What do we do?" He hit good in April, and people are now already saying, "What do we do with this guy? Should we resign him?" And people have the expectation that if he plays well, the Yankees are just going to start spending money. Most other organizations, like a perfect example of this, the Los Angeles Dodgers, they went and traded for Manny Machado. People weren't jumping up and down about them re-signing him. They weren't even freaking out about it. They honestly didn't. He became a free agent and they were like, "Thanks for your services." And he just took off. We don't do that shit. We never do that.
I hear
the
you.
Yankees pretty much DJ LeMahieu, we get him from Colorado. People say, Why are we getting him? He hit so many ground balls. He hit 240. And he gets here and they said, well, we think we can fix his launch angle. We can get the ball up in the air. Long behold, he wins multiple batting titles and everyone starts screaming at the clouds. We got to re-sign this guy. And then they're like, they're not homegrown. We just went into the bin and grabbed a guy who no one wanted, made him into what
Homegrown is
his
kind of
real potential
overrated too.
was. What's that?
I'm going to say homegrown is kind of overrated too, because
So overrated.
well, let me ask you this. Do you feel like homegrown matters more with the draft or international free agency? Because to me, it's the draft. International free agency is just free agency. You didn't really do anything. The guy just happened to sign with you when he was 16.
He
Like
chose
that,
to, and it's, yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, miss me with that, because I mean, the Yankees have gotten guys. They've also, had guys that literally like didn't go to the Yankees because they tried to do something different and it didn't work out for their career. I mean, we were talking about Victor Mesa and his brother, I believe. And, they're just like all sorts of guys like that, went the international route and just signed with different teams. Like, and it's like, you did nothing. Essentially you had international pool money, which everyone has international pool money, right? But the thing about the draft is you actually have to you have X amount of picks and you actually have to do your research and you have to draft them. International pool money, everyone has the same amount. You can trade for more. That's possible. But everyone has the same amount. I feel like the draft, if anything, the Yankees have been at a disadvantage from day one because they automatically fall down the order because of the luxury tax. So that's another thing that is never really talked about, is that their worst year in years last year, they should be picking in the teens. They're picking in the 20s, dude. They're picking in the high 20s because of the luxury tax, which I will say is absolutely ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous. I think, to me, the whole luxury tax thing is just ridiculous to penalize a draft pick. I think that's really dumb. I think if you have a bad season, going back to our initial talk, when we were doing the live stream, the whole point of the draft is to get you to turn it around. And it doesn't matter that the Yankees spent a lot of money. They were a bad baseball team last year. So theoretically, they should be picking in the top 16. But
You're not wrong.
I'm getting out of, my realm here, but that did bother me seeing that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And since when do people give a rat's ass how much money an owner's spending? Let me ask you this. Hey, Jake, what do you think about the battle between iPhone and Android? What do you think's better? Samsung? What do you think?
I mean, I like iPhone more, but I mean, I don't have any skin in the game.
So there are a lot of people out there who will tell you, I'm an iPhone guy. And I guarantee you, we're going to have people in our chat. They're going to say, I'm a Samsung guy. We've got better cameras. We've got better technology. It's faster. It's got a better charge. It's faster charger, all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
They'll tell you that stuff. Does anyone talk about the difference in money that Samsung puts into their phone or iPhone, or how much money they put into their product to make it what it is? No, they don't. They care about what the actual product is. I don't care what Apple paid to put certain glass or certain lightning chargers on the back or different cameras. I don't care what came inbound. I care what's going outbound. I care what the product is. And all I can say is this: the Yankees have a business model of, we make a ton of money, but a lot of that money is going straight back into players. Yes, we're making more money than everybody else, but we're spending more than everybody else, damn it. That's the business model. So I don't see how people get a hard on looking at some of these teams and go, well, they drafted and this guy was drafted and we had 6 or 7 of our players in our starting 9 are drafted. To be honest with you, I'm not impressed by that. I am not. 4 of them were drafted number 1, number 2, number 3 overall. If the Yankees were drafting number 2 overall for 5 seasons in a row, what do you think our lineup would look like? Let's get serious here. We're talking about a bunch of guys like Anthony Volpe, Aaron Judge, right? Austin Wells. Those guys that they're picking, they picked none of those guys in the top 10 of the draft. Not one.
Yeah, I think that the draft is really flawed. And I mean, obviously, this is a whole other thing. But in case you didn't know, the Reds, who had the same record as the Yankees, are picking second in the 2024 MLB draft.
That's blasphemous.
They're picking second.
Punished for spending money. Our bad. That's on us.
It's absolutely insane. Oh, it gets worse. Like, Cleveland Guardians have the number 1 overall pick.
Wait, why?
Oh, you didn't see it? They did. Rob Manfred thought it was a good idea, so they went to the lottery.
Cleveland got the number 1 overall pick.
The A's have the 4th pick. But remember, we were just talking about how the draft is for essentially teams that are bad to get better. I mean, the A's had 50 wins last year. Kansas City had 56. Colorado had 59. Chicago had 61, right? Everyone else had at least 70. So the A's have the 4th pick, which is insane.
Someone give me some Dramamine. I'm going to be sick.
The Royals have the 6th pick. Chicago has the 5th pick. And Colorado has the 3rd. So the reason I bring this up is because I don't like that they changed this. And the reason I say that is because it almost feels like they got their Baltimore Orioles nice story, and now they're basically locking it up. And the reason I say that is because, I mean, how many times? So the Baltimore Orioles drafted Jackson Holliday number 1, right?
Yes, they did.
And they drafted, I don't think Gunnar Henderson was number 1. I think he was.
No, I think Rauschman was.
Yeah.
Was he 2?
Well, no, Adley Rutschman was number 1.
Okay, there you go.
So they at least had 2 number 1 picks. But do you see what I mean? So if you have a lottery those years, for instance, and say the Nationals win those, and now the Nationals have those 2 guys, I mean, that really changes everything that we know about the Orioles right now, right? So
they let them get their licks in, and they're like, oh, we're done now. Like,
it just seems like they're locking it up, and now it's like, that's why I'm impressed by the Reds, because I think that they've been kind of a fun team trying to build, despite the fact I think they were utterly, I mean, I don't like that they're picking 2, but it's just, they've been screwed in the past too. So I don't want to sit here and say they had the same record as the Yankees, they're picking 2. This is blasphemous. It is. But they've also been screwed in the past as well. And I feel like a lot of these teams have as well. And like the Pirates hit, 9th and whatnot. The Yankees have the 26th pick. They have a lower pick than the Padres, the Braves, the Dodgers.
Wait a minute. Hold on 1 second. How do we have a lower pick than the Padres?
I don't know.
How was that like a...
Oh, no, it does. It gets worse. The Yankees have a lower pick than the Dodgers, and they have a lower pick than the Mets.
Okay, Jake, the whole point of this entire draft system is you're basically telling me that, yeah, you might have won 82 games, but you spent $300 million, and then that other team that won 82 games with less, we're going to reward them. That's the whole system.
Yeah.
The Padres were underwhelming last year. They spent $340 million on a shortstop until he's 42 years old. How are you going to tell us for the competitive balance of this league, the Yankees have to pick 26 and the Padres get a higher pick? How?
Oh, I'm not done. I'm reading through this now.
No way.
So the prospect promotion incentive pick. So get this. The Orioles got the 32nd pick as well as the 22nd because Gunnar Henderson won the Rookie of the Year. I mean,
this league's a joke.
The Diamondbacks got, so I mean, in theory, if we're doing this right, if this was the NFL, CJ Stroud and Will Anderson both won Rookies of the Year for offensive defense. Yes. So, I mean, the Houston Texans, who were in the playoffs, by the way, just like the Orioles, actually really good example here. They should both they should have 3 first-round picks. That's what I'm basically hearing. The Diamondbacks got one for Corbin Carroll. The prospect promotion, I get what they're trying to do, but that's ridiculous. And then
horrible idea.
And then you have compensation picks here. So if a player loses a qualifying free agent, revenue sharing recipient, and free agent signs for at least $50 million, the team will be awarded a pick between the first round and competitive balance round A. So the Twins got a 33rd overall pick for losing Sonny Gray. So this is this year's draft, by the way. The
Okay.
Cardinals forfeited their second round pick for signing Gray. And then you have competitive balance round A. All teams that have either one of the 10 smallest markets or 10 smallest revenue pools, receive an additional pick at the end of the first or second round. The group of teams alternate between the two rounds each year. Competitive balance picks may be traded and are not subject to forfeiture. So, Milwaukee Brewers, they acquired the Orioles pick in the Corbin Burns deal. It almost seems ridiculous that the Orioles, and I understand small market, small, revenue, whatever. The Orioles are one of the best teams in baseball. I don't feel like they need compensatory picks.
Wait a minute, Jake, but think of it this way. If this is the case, right? If these are the rules and the parameters that we're living under,
Yeah.
a team like the Baltimore Orioles can just suck ass for 5 years in a row, draft number 1 overall.
That's what I'm saying.
And then get to where they are, which is fantastic. They did a great job of getting to the spot, and then they can spend the shit out of it. Then we don't need the picks. They can just start spending. Because if Shohei Ohtani was a free agent next year and he was like, going to Baltimore, we'd be screwed.
So the Cleveland Guardians also got a competitive balance. So they have the first overall pick that they shouldn't have gotten, and they get a competitive balance 36th overall pick. Arizona, who was in the World Series, gets a competitive balance pick. Something about this system just tells me that Rob Manfred is the commissioner of baseball. But
why are we rewarding owners for just being cheap asses? The Diamondbacks went and got Zach Greinke. They spent $200 and some million for him. They can do it. They just choosing not to. So why are you like, oh, well, those guys, those owners, they're just always after the top players. So in order to make that right, those guys are choosing. The other teams are choosing not to go after them. It's not that they wouldn't be chosen. The Seattle Mariners went and got Robinson Cano and plucked him from the Yankees. Why? Because they gave him more money. They can afford it. And people look at the Seattle Mariners like this middle ground Western team that is just hanging out up there. No. They have money. Their owner's a billionaire. And this is just doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it.
No, it's a little ridiculous. I mean, second round, Angels, Astros, Cardinals, and Giants forfeit their second round selections as a result of signing qualified free agents. See, maybe I just look at the draft differently, but when we're talking about a draft, that's unlike anything else. I mean, I think it's closer to the NHL, right? NBA, you'll have your moments where guys, will make the roster, won't make the roster, and so forth. NFL, you're drafting a guy in the first round to be like a franchise player right off the bat.
Yep.
MLB, you're drafting for the future. So do you see why I feel like having these things in place, dropping the Yankees from 16th to 26th and forfeiting picks because you signed a free agent, like the idea of that, when you factor in these picks we're not going to see for 4 to 5 years, it just shows you that they don't actually understand their product. They just don't get it. Because
and also in baseball, the top pick, because trust me, I get it. Technically, you can draft like an Aaron Judge, an Albert Pujols, right?
Yeah.
Mike Trout later on in the first round. But statistics show the top 3 to 5 picks in the draft in Major League Baseball, there's a huge gap between those top 3 picks. Are you kidding me with how hard baseball is? The difference between Adley Rauschman and like the number 11 overall pick is a joke.
And
it's a joke.
Also, I mean, that just happened to be a year where you had a can't miss catcher prospect, which you just never see. I mean, we'll probably not get that for another 10 years if we're being honest.
Right. So the difference between the number 1 overall pick, and I get it. Like you'll say, what's his face? Jackson Holiday, he was drafted number 2 overall. And yeah, like you're going to find some variance in the 1 through 3, and someone will find a diamond in the rough at 26 and maybe 29. Hell, even like a couple rounds later. But statistics show if you're drafting number 1 through 3, you're probably going to get some great players. And it doesn't seem fair to me that just because someone spent money and then they ended up in the same spot as you, you're like, well, you spent money, so you had an unfair advantage. It's not unfair. It's called spending money.
Yeah,
that's stupid.
I mean, let's put it this way. The draft lottery, the Texas Rangers had the 7th pick in 2023.
This system sucks. They won. They spent money on Simeon, Seager, and then they went and won the World Series. And they're like, "Well done, boys. You guys also got DeGrom."
It actually goes to show you how these guys. Wait, I'm starting to see a pattern here. The Rangers had the 2nd overall pick in 2021, and they took Jack Leiter.
Yes.
So do you see where I'm going with this?
Like, that was the year they were going to take what's his name out of Vanderbilt, not Jack Leiter. Who was the other guy? Kumar Rocker.
Yes, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
The 2019 MLB draft, the Orioles have the number 1 pick. Then the Rangers have been in the top 10 almost every year. I'm looking at it, which is weird. 2018. See, this is kind of the funny. This is where it kind of separates. So, and this is where you have to give the Orioles some credit. Because the Orioles, yes, they had 2 first overall picks. But with that, they actually came away with 2 great players. And, but looking at some of these teams, like multiple seasons where you had the Tigers coming away, they got Casey Mize, and they got in 2018, and then they got Spencer Torkelson with the first overall pick in 2020. The Tigers, maybe now they're starting to show that they're like turning it around, but I gotta be honest with you, like part of me, I don't want to go too much into the Orioles because I think, it goes to show you like they've given these teams opportunities to do such, and the Orioles are the ones that are doing it, and the Rangers took advantage of it as well. But I think we can all agree the MLB draft needs an overhaul. I mean, I think really they should be focusing on trying to get people into it. I mean, we've already seen how big it can be, lucrative it can be, for the leagues. I mean, we saw it with the NFL. We saw it, the NBA got bigger, WNBA. I mean, people watch the WNBA draft, and I don't think many people are going to watch the MLB draft. And so I'd like to see them take steps to make it more entertaining and definitely take all of these different things out, competitive balance, all this stuff, because it's incredibly flawed because we're not talking about players that are going to compete and help your team win tomorrow. We're talking about guys that are literally and I mean literally tomorrow, not the future, but we're talking about guys that literally won't be up for 5 years. And you're penalizing the Yankees for spending money now so they can't be good 5 years from now. That's basically what you're saying. It's like, oh, you had the audacity to sign Carlos Rodon. Yeah, we're not going to let you draft anybody. Like, that seems ridiculous to me.
Yeah, no, in my opinion, the positive to not going to sign Carlos Rodon, it shouldn't just be like, damn, we didn't get Carlos Rodon. So like,
at least we have our first round pick.
What are you guys going to do to help us now? What the hell do you mean? What am I going to do to help you? Pull out your freaking wallet, bum.
Yeah, there is a lot of hand holding. With that said, though, you do get the Yankees who will sit there in the 20s. They draft pretty well. And I remember it like it was yesterday when, I was hoping Spencer Jones was going to fall, and then I saw the Red Sox and was like, oh, they're going to pick my guy. Because I've only followed the draft like religiously in the first round 2 years. It's the year that I wanted Aaron Judge, and it was the year I wanted Spencer Jones. That's it. I don't know how it worked out that way. I did not follow them when they drafted Austin Wells in the first round. I did not follow them when they drafted Trey Sweeney. But for whatever reason, those two I followed. And I remember the Red Sox picking at 24, and they're like, everybody in MLB Network is like, I think the Red Sox are going to go with Spencer Jones here. They want their own Aaron Judge. I think they can get that here. And all I'm thinking is, yeah, that's true. But also, why are we not asking the question of why is Spencer Jones, if we're calling in the next Aaron Judge, why is he going 25th overall? And then he fell into the Yankees' lap, and I'm like, oh, they're picking him. No doubt about it, they're picking him. And then the pick comes in like instantaneously.
Yeah, it was a
And
no-brainer.
and Mikey Romero better end up being a really good player because the Red Sox are going to be kicking themselves for not drafting Spencer Jones. I can tell you that right now because he went 24th and Spencer Jones went 25th in the 2022 draft. Also, Spencer Jones is better than most of these players ahead of him. And, we'll see what ends up happening. But yeah, I'll say, in closing, as much as we want to complain and everything about the way they do things, because I don't love the way they do things, the 26th pick the year before when they got George Lombard Jr., they're going to have that again. As much as I don't love the way they do things, the Yankees know how to draft in the first round. They've done a nice job of that, and they've really gotten used to, what they look for. I think that it's going to be fun following the first round. We might be able to get into the second and third, but I'll be honest with you. I think as long as we cover the first round the best that we can, it'll be worth it in the end. Because I think it's going to be fun. I mean, I'm sure some of these guys, we're going to have our opinions on. And the thing is, I think you really know pitching. So I think it'll be really interesting. I don't know what position they would go after. I think that's something maybe we do like a show about and try to, diagnose, okay, looking at, the top 30, what makes sense. But I'm really curious to see with what with your pitching, because you're really on top of that, where you have them going and maybe if anybody stands out. So it'll be fun.
Well, I'm looking at a list right now, and the last 2 times the Yankees were picking in the top 10, you're talking about Derek Jeter being 6 overall. See, that's what happens when you let the Yankees pick at the top of the draft.
Dude.
And then Thurman Munson in 68
my God.
going number 4 overall. Are you freaking kidding me right now?
And by the way, that's probably how it would have been if I'm saying not that high, but that's probably what it would have been if the Yankees weren't kind of screwed over by this new hating on teams that spend money.
Yeah, I think in general that was really created like a Steve Cohen thing. If you're going to spend, you're not going to be able to draft. Okay.
The irony is that Steve Cohen's Mets, they picked 19th. It's just the idea they pick ahead of the Yankees. The Dodgers picking ahead of the Yankees is what are we doing here?
That's stupid. I don't care what anybody says. That's dumb.
Yeah.
That's really dumb. I don't get it. Yeah. So, well, I mean, we'll dive deep into it later.
Yeah, no, it'll be fun. Hope you guys enjoyed. This is a longer episode than maybe we initially intended, but normally when the game isn't that great, we tend to float around different topics. And this MLB draft one, man, this got our juices pumping. Gary did not even know half the things that were going on. This is, like you said, blasphemy.
No, honestly, I was much happier before I knew this stuff. So.
Oh yeah.
So thanks.
Well, you're a big believer in things that make sense, and Rob Manfred, when he just invokes anything, it doesn't really make sense.
Well, at least he quit on the job. He's about done. So,
wow,
that's the nice part.
Well, we'll see about that. I mean, hopefully he's gone ASAP because
he is. I think he's done. Is it after this year or is it after next year? It's one of the two.
I think it's a while from now. I think he said that it was 2028.
What? Oh,
yeah.
Was it?
His term ends in January 2029.
Oh.
I was thinking that. I was like, wait a minute, bro. You're he's saying he'll step down as commissioner and he's acting all oh, I'm going to do this and it's going to be really sad. Bro, you're talking about 2029. You might not even be alive in 2029. We don't know anything about 2029.
Bro's 60. He's 65. He looks like freaking Emperor Palpatine. He's aging horribly.
Oh, no one likes that guy.
No, I guess that's what happens when you're stressed.
Yeah.
He does a terrible job. He's aging like literally the president of the United States.
He'll be when it's all said and done, 14 years. He will have been the commissioner.
Wow. Well, I mean, we haven't had very good. What's interesting is I don't even know if people would consider Bud Selig a good commissioner? Because realistically, everyone says that he was, like, some people say he was a terrible commissioner, but in reality, he kind of let steroids slide by, and steroids was kind of like what gave baseball the shot in the arm after the strike.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
So it's an interesting topic because technically he was supposed to uphold the law and be consistent and all these different things, but he almost let baseball be WWE for a couple of years there.
what's funny is that I don't really like any of the commissioners, but I gotta say Roger Goodell by default would be the best commissioner because I mean, look who you're going up against. Adam Silver thinks everybody is his buddy, and he wants to hold hands with all the players and make things so easy to the point where I think down the road we'll start seeing every game is 5 days out, because everyone needs their beauty sleep.
We
And then
start
you
in the
have
fourth quarter.
yeah. And then I'll probably change it so no one's, feelings or no one gets offended. He'll probably make it so, you can't get fouled out. If you have 6 fouls, it'll be like 7 or 8. I do not like him. And then you have Gary Bettman, who falls asleep in his own games. He'll go to hockey games and just pass out. It's like a common meme. And then you have Rob Manfred, who only defends umpires and doesn't really understand why baseball makes the money it does and has the attention it does. And Goodell has his faults, but the NFL's run better than all of these leagues, and it's why, they're doing so well. So, yeah, I think really at the end of the day, commissioners aren't very good, and we can get in the NCAA and talk about how bad Mark Emmert is, and he's not really a commissioner, but he's the head of NCAA. These guys just are not very good at their job, and what we find is that jobs across anything, you'll find guys in big industries just shouldn't be in position because they're probably better people out there, but there are people that just abuse their power. And Manfred's one of those guys who doesn't even abuse his power. He just doesn't really have any idea of what he's doing. And you can say what you will about, oh well, he made it so games don't take as long, and with the pitch clock and the bigger bases, and it's like, I don't even think he did that. I think that was the league pushing that. I think that was the owners' meetings pushing that. You could say he made it happen, whatever. But at the end of the day, I just don't think there's a good commissioner really across all sports. I'd say Goodell's the best, and I have plenty of gripes with Goodell. So let me make that very clear. I'm not exactly a yay Goodell.
Or you got Rams fans mad at you.
Yeah, I mean, the officiating in football is bad, but the umpiring in baseball is the worst thing in any sport. I mean, it's not even comparable. And then you have the way they do the draft, and you're like, I mean, get rid of lotteries because it's to stop tanking. I'm sorry, teams that are tanking for a pick that they're not going to be able to see in the majors for 5 years. That's not a concern. That's not hurting the integrity of the sport. If they're tanking, fine. They probably weren't going to win much anyway. It's 162 games. So if you choose to go through those 162 games and tank, that's on you. But anyway, I'm done with my rant.
Yep. See what happens when we get on the pod, when we start recording. We rant. Yeah, but dude, I mean, what can you ask from us? We lost. So if we start winning, we'll talk about the team.
Yeah. This will be like 20 minutes, bro. every time. Yeah, dude, this is going to be a really short one, and we get into it, and then there's just that one topic, which, by the way, is why baseball is just, it's so great, because there's like, we can, complain about like the draft now, and we just filled like 20-25 minutes of the draft.
I'm about to go bowling to blow off some steam from this Yankees shutout loss. I'm being serious.
And the draft, by the way.
Yep.
Because now
I'm bowling a 300 tonight.
Yeah. Just pretend like the pins are Rob Manfred. There you go.
They have new pins tonight. So yes, I'm going to pretend.
Okay. Well, there we go. So guys, hope you guys enjoyed. That's going to do it. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Yankees, same time, 6:35. Really weird. And yeah, we'll see if they can beat the crap out of Kramer, and hopefully Nestor has better stuff than he did last start.
Yeah. And also thank you guys for 500 subs. We're going to laugh at this video a long time a year from now, we're going to be laughing at 500 subs. But regardless, we're incredibly thankful. It's gone really quick. We've made a ton of content, a lot of content, let's be honest. And it's only going to increase from here. So we appreciate you guys, and make sure you like this video.